Hi, I'm Kate Heffernan, and I'm a Vinyasa yoga instructor based out of Boston, Massachusetts. And today I'm bringing to you a little short sequence to help with your hamstrings and calves, specifically in preparation for downward facing dog pose. Down dog happens to be my favorite pose, and it is kind of the bread and butter pose for Vinyasa yoga. It's used for almost every transition. So a lot of newer students I find have a lot of trouble with different aspects of this pose. So today what we're focusing on are the backs of the legs, giving them a little bit of warming up and stretching before you come to down dog. So you'll want a strap nearby and then two blocks, and I lay them sort of midway up my mat on the lowest height so they're easily gettable but not necessarily on my mat. And I'd like you to come into a supine Tadasana, which basically means you're going to lay back, big toes touching, heels just slightly apart. And as you come back, you want to recommit to your toes facing straight up towards the ceiling, and that will mean that your hip points, your knees, and your toes are all facing straight up instead of a more open position like Shavasana. When your toes are facing straight up, I want you to observe the two sides of your waist. They should feel more or less equally long. I also want you to observe that slight lift in your lower back. It's a naturally occurring curve, and I'm going to ask you to come back to it later on when it's a little more challenging. So if you can feel it now and kind of imprint it into your kinesthetic memory. Take another 2 breaths here. Now at the end of your next exhale, you're going to keep your left leg where it is, bend your right knee, and draw your right knee to your chest. Take a hold of your strap, and you'll want the center of the strap, and loop the ball of your foot up into the strap. Now if you're not clear on what that means, the ball of the foot, it's this area of your foot that's below your toes but above your arch. It's sometimes called the brain of the foot. You're going to press that straight up into the strap, and you kind of want to have equal lengths of the straps, but that's just me. I'm a little bit obsessive about things like that. Now, once you straighten your right leg, you want to make sure that your right knee is as straight as it can go without being in a locked position. So maybe you can see on my leg, when I go all the way straight, the back of my knee gets kind of puffy and hard. And when you do that, you actually overstretch the tendons in your knee versus the muscle, the hamstring muscle, which is what we're trying to get. So you want to soften the knee just a little bit, that you have a little bit of pliability in the back of your knee. Now, I'm holding the strap with my left hand. Notice on your own body that your right hip is higher in space than your left hip is, meaning the right side waist is shorter than your left side. So I'm going to pick up my hip, drop it forward and down until I feel that the two sides of my waist are equally long. Now, from there, I reach back up the strap with both hands and hold on. And if your hands get it all tired, you might want to drop your hands down a couple of inches and roll your hands into the strap. That just makes it a little less effortful on your arms. Now the weight of gravity in my arms are starting to pull my right leg back. My left leg stays straight. If this feels too strong for you, you absolutely could bend your left knee and plant your foot. However, you do not want to lose the straightness of your right leg. You also want to recall that slight lift in your lower back I told you to take a kinesthetic memory of before. So instead of letting your lower back round and pulling your shin in as close as you can, you want to actually tip your pubis, the front of your pelvis, away from your navel. So there's that slight arch in your low back. Now, either with your left knee bent or straight. If it is straight, make sure the toes are still facing straight up. You can start to gradually encourage a bit of a bend in your elbows until you feel a good stretch in the back of your right leg, and it might be in your hamstring muscle, that's your thigh, or it might be in the calf muscle, which is the leg, the top of the leg. Breathing and holding. Now, if you have even more to go, you could bend even more deeply, but I want you to be quite sure you're really bending only from your elbows and not bending at your knee joint. Given the opportunity, our body will take the path of least resistance whenever possible, and it's a heck of a lot easier to bend your knee than it is to stretch your hamstring. I'm going to give you another 3 breaths here. This is Supta Padangusthasana 1. Now at the end of your next exhale or two, you're going to take your left hand and unravel it from the strap and pass both ends of the strap into your right hand. I'm going to keep a really firm grip on my strap with my right hand and take my left hand to my left hip or thigh. If the knee was bent, I would bring it to the hip, but since my leg is straight, I'm going to bring it to my thigh. I'm going to push my left thigh firmly down to the floor, and then very slowly, like you're opening a car door. Now when you open a car door, the car stays still, the door does the moving, right? So your right leg is the car door. The rest of your body is the car. Do not let your left hip come along for the ride. You're going to very slowly start to open your right leg over into the right, and notice how I'm moving slowly enough that I can really feel when my left hip wants to lift. I push it back down and then continue that descent over into the right until I can no longer keep the left hip down. Now, my goal was to have that block land beneath my thigh. I didn't quite make it, so I'm just going to move the block and come back into the pose so that when I open my right leg to the right, my thigh can rest on the block. That way my arm doesn't have to work quite so hard to hold the foot. I'm pressing my left thigh down towards the floor. I'm turning my left toes up towards the ceiling. My right leg is open and to the right. What we're looking for is a stretch running through your inner thigh. And that inner thigh, your adductor, is sometimes known as the fourth hamstring. So it's worthwhile to stretch this muscle along with stretching your hamstrings in preparation for downward facing dog pose. Give yourself another full breath in and out. This is Supta Padangusthasana 2. And then when you're ready to come out, push back into your standing leg, that left leg again, so it's really strong and stable. You're going to engage your right arm, engage your right leg. Inhale, come back through to center. And then unloop the strap. Give your right knee a squeeze. And then you'll straighten your right leg out next to your left, come back to that supine Tadasana, and you might actually be able to see my right leg has actually gotten a little longer than my left. That's how much these poses can really change how open your hips feel. So let's even ourselves out. You're going to then take your left knee in. Again, notice the two sides of your waist before you pull it all the way in. Are they parallel? If not, fix it. Notice that lower back curve so you can recreate it in a moment. As the left knee pulls in, you'll find the middle of your strap. Loop the ball of your foot up. Again, that space just beneath your toes but above your arch. And straighten your left leg. Please try not to be so attached to how close your last leg got in. A lot of times we think that we should be symmetrical when indeed we are not. One side is almost undoubtedly tighter than the other side. So straighten the leg however far back the leg needs to go. Allow it to be there. Make sure the knee is straight but not locked, and you can take that little test of poking your finger into the back of your knee. Now, noticing how your left hip has swung slightly up, you're going to take your left hand into your left outer hip, pick the hip up, move it forward and down until the two sides of your waist are equally long. Keeping this knee straight but not locked, reach up the strap without shrugging your shoulders or head, and find either side. Your right leg is strong, toes point up towards the ceiling, thigh presses down. And if you're ever not sure, you can always just lift your head and look at your toes, because sometimes what you think the toes are doing and what they're actually doing are two different things. If you prefer, you could absolutely bend your right knee and plant the foot. Now the last thing I want you to do is recreate that lower back arch, pubis away from your navel. And then against that, see if you can pull your left leg in any amount more. Now, if you notice that one side is significantly tighter than the other, I would consider staying here an extra few breaths longer. It doesn't have to be a significant chunk. Maybe it's just about 3 or 4 breaths longer than the last side. So to be even, we're going to do about another 3 breaths on this side, but feel free to modify that and stay for 6, 7 breaths longer. Now, end of that next exhale, or when you're ready, you'll pass your strap over and into your left hand. Keep that left hand holding on quite strongly as your right hand either plants on your thigh if the leg is straight or on your hip if the knee is bent. Keeping that steadiness of your standing leg. Again, remember, your body in this right side is the car. This left leg is the car door that swings open. So you're going to keep this heavy, very slowly start to open. And I really encourage a very slow open so that you don't rush into it and miss some sort of cue that this right hip wants to come up off the floor. Now again, I misjudged where my block needed to go, so I'm going to come back, move my block up and slightly closer to my hip so that as I open, I can get wide enough with my left leg that I feel a stretch in my inner thigh, but not so wide that my right hip swings off the floor with me. So again, right thigh heavy, toes facing towards the ceiling, and you might need to check on that by actually seeing them. Or again, the knee could be bent, hip stays down. Supta Padangusthasana 2. Push the ball of your foot into the strap. Breathing and holding here for another count of 3. Breathing and holding for 2. Then on your 1, press down into your standing right leg. You'll come back through to center and then rebend the knee. Release your strap. Give your knees a good squeeze in, and you might already notice a significant difference from when you started. And I have one last little thing I want to show you, and this is more geared towards your calf muscles rather than the hamstrings. So you'll either roll yourself off to a side and press up, or you can rock your way up to a seat. And you're going to make your way into all fours, hands and knees. And in this position, it'll be very important that your knees are actually hips width distance. And to test that, you'll just take 2 fists right between your inner knees. Make sure the knees are wide enough that the fists can fit between. Your hands will be just about underneath your shoulders, pressing down into every knuckle, every fingertip. Now in this position, I'm going to firm my front ribs in so my lower back feels flat. You'll kind of look and feel table-like. From here, and this might look a little awkward and it might feel kind of awkward while you're doing it, but I promise you it's the best thing I found for stretch, or it's really a massage for your calves. You're going to take your left knee, pick it up, bring your left knee around to the back of your right calf muscle, and then you're going to drop the knee down into your calf and then kind of drag the knee back towards your heel. And you'll pick it up again and just kind of drag. So you're doing a little bit of a self-massage on yourself. And I even start to draw circles with my knee and start and stop in different positions. And in the summertime, if you wear flip-flops, this is like amazing for your calf muscles because flip-flops tend to make your calves work really hard. If you can't get your knee into your calf, you can absolutely use the front of your shin. That's pretty bony. And then when you feel like you've, done enough on this side, you'll bring that left knee back to its starting position beneath your left hip. Take your right leg, stretch it out, curl the right toes under at the back of your mat like you're going into a high push-up, and then kick your heel back as far as you can. And I kind of push into my hands so that my heel almost goes, it's moving in the direction of actually touching the floor. And that'll stretch out the calf muscle, even the hamstring. Hold for 3, 2, and on your 1, you'll stand on your left knee, pull your right knee in, and place the right knee on the back of your left calf. From there, you'll push down and draw back. So you're controlling how hard you push. Start a little softer so you don't, shock yourself. But then you can really explore with how much pressure to give and how much movement you want. And once you've done all you needed to do on this side, and again, feel free if one side feels like it needs longer than the other, trust that instinct of yours. You'll bring your right knee back beneath your right hip so your left leg can stretch out. Curl the toes under and kick back through the heel. So what we're really looking for here is that stretch through the back of your leg. And then end of your exhale, you can bring your knees back. Big toes to touch, rock your hips back to your heels, and rest in child's pose. And so feel free to add this to your repertoire, not just for down dog, but for the overall health and flexibility of your hamstrings and your calf muscles. Thanks so much.